Cameron, you got us recording? Okay. We'll go get started. Good evening, everybody. This is a regular board meeting for the Centerville Community School District. Our mission is that all students will learn well, become lifelong learners, and contribute positively to society. Regular board meeting November 11th, 2024. Happy Veterans Day to veterans. Thank you for your services. We're at 5:30 p.m. in the Centerville admin offices. I'd like to call the meeting to order with a roll call, please.
Berger.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Heffron. Here. Johnson.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Collins.
Here.
Wiskus.
Here. All right, we do have a quorum. We'll proceed with the meeting. We have, I'd like to welcome visitors that are here tonight, both staff and from the public, and we do have one card turned in for public comment tonight. So I'll just go ahead and do a reminder that like we typically do for the guidelines for public comment, we'd like to remind all speakers that while this is an open forum for any issue of raise or concern, the board does instruct all speakers to maintain a civil tone and refrain from using profanity, raising their voices, making statements that are threatening or harassing towards the speakers. We also want to remind all speakers that any comments that we made during public comment are done so that the rest of the person making the comment, the district will not be responsible for defamatory, potential defamatory statements. It is the board's practice not to engage or respond to speakers during the public session, regardless of topic or concern that the board wishes to further discuss or address an item of concern in public comment. It will do so by establishing an agenda item at a future board meeting or delegating responsibility to the administration to address an issue. Thank you. Mr. Dillard has turned in and you'd like to address the school board. You have 5 minutes.
So, back in February, you guys did a self-evaluation, and one of the strengths that you had talked about was your transparency. And I've approached this board multiple times to make safety a monthly discussion item, and school safety should be top priority. And I see no evidence to show that you have any desire to discuss or to address safety issues within your district on a regular basis. And that's disturbing to me as a parent and as a taxpayer. I'd like for this board to take safety more seriously and implement new equipment policies and training in place. There'll be an argument made that due to the sensitive nature of the subject, you can't share with the public. That's where we go into the transparency that you talked about as one of your strengths in February during your self-evaluation. Let the public know what you're doing in safety, or not doing, or planning on doing, or talking about doing. What discussions are happening outside this room, I don't know, because it's not transparent to a parent or a taxpayer. I'm going to go on to your next one, which was fiscal responsibility, which is one of your strengths. This board last meeting unanimously voted to spend $91,000 on a storage room floor. Not educational materials, not classroom, not teacher salaries, a storage room floor for storage. There were questions of why it's such a high cost for a floor, but an arbitrary timeline was set and forced an immediate vote rather than gather more information and make the best decision for the district. Where is the fiscal responsibility? While I'm on a fiscal responsibility, how much money recently paid out over recent lawsuits by this school board? That money paid out due to this board and their actions or inaction. Not money spent on educational materials or bettering the district, but lawsuits. Where is the fiscal responsibility? In February, your self-evaluation, one of your greatest weaknesses was high-quality staff. Last meeting, it was said that you needed to cut $700,000 in staff budget. How does something like this sneak up on an organization that is supposed to know what they're doing? I agree with your self-evaluation that high-quality staff is an issue, and it looks to continue to be an issue in the future. What are you doing to address that? Last meeting, this board was given their grade card on how education was measured for 4th, 8th, and 11th graders, and it didn't come back good. After receiving this news, the board president responded with, a certain demographic of parents don't read to their kids, and parents need to do more. There are successful schools out there that have the same demographics, if not worse, and they're able to do better than this district. How is that possible? The amount of time was also mentioned. Oh, the school only gets the kids in an overall year, not that much of time. Well, There are successful schools that have the same students the same amount of time. How is that possible? But not for this district. Someone in the support staff even said back here that parents may not be able to read. Well, parents are unable to read in other districts that are able to see success with their kids. How is that possible in those other districts? I agree with your self-evaluation that student learning is a weakness, which is what you said in your own evaluation, that student learning, which is what this board exists for, is a weakness for this board. What is being done to address this? You've known this for 8 months. You've said it out loud to yourself and to the community that teaching students and educating them was a weakness. What have you done in those 8 months? Heard from this board several times that it's good enough for such and such district, it's good enough for us. Well, the same goes for the educational piece of the equation. I have sat for 10 months at every board meeting, only missing a handful, to educate myself on the actions of this board. I've come to the conclusion that this board is not about addressing the issues of this district. You're not even looking at the problem. You don't go into the schools and meet with the teachers and learn from them the issues that they are facing. You don't speak with the students and hear from them directly. All the information that this board receives is filtered several times before it gets to this board. This board, in my opinion, exists only as a marketing PR of the district. There are real problems in this district that need to be addressed. There are parents, students, and teachers that are relying on this board to do better. They're hurting, and they need help, and this board is not helping them. So that's unfortunate. I don't see this board addressing those issues head on.
Jay,
Rather they,
you're fine, Ms. Hunt, but I'm gonna let you continue.
I've got 1 sentence left.
But I just want you to know.
I appreciate that. They would rather spin things that everything is fine and blame others for failures and make excuses. It is my hope this board would be better than it is and lead this school district. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the list is to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion second to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Need to approve minutes from previous meetings.
Motion to approve minutes.
Second.
We have a motion to second to approve the minutes of previous meetings. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. There is no old business. This is where we turn it over to Lisa. She is the president pro tem for the election, so.
So I'll call for nominations for president.
I nominate Mike Thomas.
Second.
Nominate Kevin Wiskus.
Second.
President, I guess I should say, instead of the third president.
Right. So you want to call for nominations to seats?
So moved. Second.
So I'll go around the room and you'll pick between the two. Berger,
Wiskus.
Carter,
Wiskus.
Heffernan,
Thomas.
Johnson,
Thomas.
Moore,
Wiskus.
Thomas,
Thomas.
Wiskus.
I can't abstain, can I?
No.
Thomas? If that's what you want to split, and I'm okay with that. Because quite frankly, it's okay. Sorry.
Okay. Call for nominations for vice president.
Derek Carter.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear after Mike said Derek Carter. Did someone else say something?
I was,
Is there a second?
I'll second. I nominate Carol Heffron.
I'll second.
Is there a call for nominations to cease?
Call for the nominations to cease.
Second.
Okay, I'll go around the room again. Berger,
Carter.
Carter,
Carter.
Heffron,
Heffron.
Johnson,
Heffron.
Moore,
Carter.
Thomas,
Heffron.
Liskus,
Carter.
okay, so I need to administer the oath of office to the president and the vice president. I'm sorry. Let's do both at the same time.
Yep.
Do you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that you will faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the offices of President and Vice President for the Centerville Community School District as now and hereafter required by law?
I do. New business, student representative.
FFA is having a dog breed auction on November 22nd, 4 to 6 p.m. And our student council is starting their Operation Santa fundraisers for this year, which we have Chuck a Duck, Kids Night Out, cookie decorating contest, we have a cookie eating contest, and dessert parameters. And then many of our students are wanting paper towels in the bathrooms. That's a complaint. So that's all I have for you guys.
Thanks for sharing that too.
Any questions?
What's currently just the hand dryers? Is that what's in the bathroom now?
Yeah.
And no paper towels?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Next item is the set board meeting dates and times.
I think, so Lisa has something in the packet for that, with some dates proposed on there. A couple of things to note, next November is election November, so the the meeting at which we would do, like, president, vice president, and all that, is actually pushed back on that meeting, so that's just kind of one thing to note there. Kind of kept our same format that we've had the last couple of years, in terms of like the months that we have one meeting in, trying to do those. Anything else you think I need to call out on that, or?
Just that, I mean, it says that there, but I haven't set the budget hearing dates, because we have to have 2 again, and, just need to get more specific about the timelines for those, so we'll do that at a later date.
And so a lot of that is kind of determined by our work with department management as we start to do the budget. So you have to give a certain number of days after you posted it in the newspaper. And we hear there could be maybe some shifts to that just a little bit once the session gets going. So we may not know exactly until a little bit closer to that, until January or so.
Some important dates land on a Sunday, and I just want to make sure if they're gonna extend it out to the Monday, so, we'll just come back with those dates.
Any questions about that? Okay, we'll wait and see where that lands. Next item is approve the high school, excuse me, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch you up. Are we gonna approve those dates though?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, we do need a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion to approve the dates. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the dates. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Okay, motion passed. Next item is approve the high school addition project change order number 9.
It will be approved board attorney and chief negotiator.
Oh, excuse me, I'm skipping ahead there. School board attorney.
So we still have down Daniel Hayfield with Hollers and Cooney, and then our chief negotiator, and then why can I never remember his name? I'm thinking
Aaron
Connor.
Hilgis.
Aaron Hilgis with Hollers and Cooney as our school board attorney is our recommendation. We also have down a contact for a secondary attorney, for a local attorney of Nicole Cox with Cox Law Firm as our recommendation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion.
Is this district confident moving forward with current council in light of recent transgressions?
I wondered if that wouldn't be a question. I know that's something that's been discussed a couple times. In talking to other superintendents, I know they've received similar advice from their attorneys as well, using the major law firms in the state. I think we happen to be caught in the middle of a landmark decision there. But I could certainly go back to Hollers and Cooney and ask if the board directed me to choose a different attorney with them.
And I concur with Mark on everything that we're talking about, is that's the same advice. The advice we got is the routine advice. The training that they do is consistent with that. What's missing in the training is how to actually conduct the meeting once you're in it. And I think that's the difference. We didn't get good advice on that part.
Well, I think now they're, what I've been told by a couple of their attorneys coming out of this, because we've worked with a couple in the last few days on some other projects, including the early retirement project, they're scrambling to kind of change their advice and change the presentations that they do on that kind of meeting to determine what the new case law says they can and can't do, how things have been differently. I shouldn't say scrambling, that's not fair, but they're working to make changes on that based on that new rule.
I know you've had probably the most experience with this lady of any of us here, Kevin. Have any feelings one way or the other?
No, what I just said was kind of all I have, so.
Okay, that sounds good. So,
She is highly respected in the education law circles. She's generally one of the more respected ones. She's the one that a lot of organizations ask to speak. Her and this Catherine that we worked with on the early retirement program. So, for what that's worth.
any other discussion? All those in favor of hiring these folks, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Motion carries. Now we'll try the high school edition project, change order number 9.
So this one is one that I wanna make sure that I'm telling you all the right things, because there's a few little items in here, that, hit. So change order number 9 has additional soil, there's additional holes, additional soil, removal of remaining hazardous material. So this is our, what's that, asbestos, that we had to do with that, with Zinsers, essentially. The lion's share of the money is the asbestos.
Okay. Did we get the idea that this might finish that up?
It kind of sounding that way, which is good. Now, we'll have an official approval on the one that we pre-approved on the last meeting,
It is on there, sorry.
oh, is that one
It's
on there?
the number
Oh, that's the
5.
91 there, yeah.
Yeah, that's the 91.
And so, and just to clarify, that's not just for the floor, we're actually providing some structural support to that item there. So there's more than just a finishing of the floor in that room. That's also removal of the wall and proper supports there, so. But yes, the floor is a big part of it, a large amount of concrete.
And I know in the previous meeting, you said that that was going to be used for storage, but could be used for classrooms.
And we kind of got that in our, if we would have a big increase, if these factories would pan out and we'd have a big increase, it might need to be a classroom. So that's why, a big reason why we wanted to make sure to have that space finished properly, because if we stuck kids in there with what we would have had, it would have been, I wouldn't say unsafe, but really not a very nice place for kids to learn.
Well, I think the other thing too with that floor to remember is, it's a safety hazard, even if it's being storage. Yeah, it's easy to throw out numbers that we spent this and this and this, but we're gonna have staff working in there.
Yeah.
And it takes one slip and fall, one cart rolling on top of somebody, and that $90,000 is a drop in the bucket, so.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
Drip
Hazard
is not
for
a fly.
custodians.
Looking for a motion here, if somebody wants to make it.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of change order number 9, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
same. Motion carries. E, approval of Lakeview Gym custom wall pads.
Okay, so this while it's not a large amount of money, it's actually, the funny thing about this is it's not so much for the sake of Lakeview. In our design for the high school gym, we've got these nice big concrete walls right underneath all these basketball hoops, right? And a very small space between where you can run and where you have to stop before the wall. And we've already had one kid get injured running into that wall. So what we're proposing to do with this, instead of buying new pads for the high school and having nice, beautiful, new custom artwork and everything there, we'd like to replace the ones we have at Lakeview and then take those ones to put at the high school so that we have some protection to keep kids safe in that short running space there. So we thought eventually we'll need to replace those Lakeview ones. They're gonna get a lot less wear and tear this way at the high school. So just seemed like a way to spend our money in a way that maybe impacted our public a little bit more by putting the good stuff at Lakeview and the hand-me-downs, I'll say, at the high school. That's probably not the right way to put it, but anything to add to that, Jared? Because you were real instrumental in helping this come together.
No, so like Mark said, we have 6 baskets at the high school right now. There's only pads under 4 of the 6 baskets, and they're like the bare minimum, about the width of this table under the 4 that have them. So when we were looking at it, we just thought, like, we hold all of our competitions for basketball, volleyball, wrestling, everything at Lakeview, so we might as well kind of invest that money there where we host everybody, and then we can repurpose those ones at the high school and kind of have 2 birds with 1 stone sort of thing, and have really nice stuff down at Lakeview that everybody sees when they go to those competitions. But then also have those pads at the high school for the safety component. Like Mark said, we already had one young man get a concussion because he ran in where there wasn't a pad. So.
And I want to clear up before this problem kind of comes out outside of the meeting, these hand-me-downs won't look bad at the high school, so we're not going to take our $19 million high school and make it look bad. These, like Aaron has a nice plan to make these look really nice. So it's not just a thrown together kind of thing, he's got a good plan for us.
Well, I like the idea of, we're taking care of the safety part, and we're also thinking fiscally responsible.
Yeah,
So,
so again, safety, because we've already had one student get injured, and, getting the best bang for the district dollar with this, so I would make a motion to approve.
And, excuse me, who pays, where's this come from, the money for you?
This would be Pebble money.
Okay.
So yeah, and so this, along with all the construction items, come from a fund that we can't use to pay for a shortfall for teachers.
I think that's kind of something that's unclear in the public, certain money can't just be
Yeah.
moved wherever we want,
I'm
We
still
could, we
learning.
can cook and.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
yeah,
Going on, yeah.
Yes,
that's why we asked Lisa.
yes, yes. Well,
We
I
have
think
a-
that's good to
Thanks
get
for
that out
bringing
there.
that up,
Well,
yeah.
people,
Yeah, it's good to say it.
yes,
It's good to say it. We have a motion.
I so move.
second.
Well, Derek
Derek
actually
made
made
the
the
Oh,
motion.
I'm sorry.
Carol made the second. Any more discussion?
Sorry, Tom.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. F, approval of Southern Iowa Mental Health Center Care Coordination Agreement.
The nice news is this is just kind of another one of those things that we sometimes get every now and then where an organization is willing to work with our kids. They bill private insurance or state insurance, and they just need a space when they come in. So it's just another group willing to provide mental health folks who can try to help our kids and meet as many needs as possible. Just, another tool hopefully in our toolbox to help kids out. Not a cost to us, just let them use a conference room or something when they come in. Typically a conference room, I should say.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion
Second.
and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, I think it'll really help our kids.
G, approval of the early retirement policy and application.
Yeah, so we put a lot of work in with Catherine Binkin and Allers on this one. She does a lot of this kind of work for them. You're gonna find that it's very similar to what we've done in the past. There's kind of one big change to the way that we've written this that actually has only a positive effect on a potential retiree, in that the district, instead of just writing a check for the lump sum, would deposit that money into a 403B. Now, an employee could decide to immediately withdraw it from the 403B as soon as it's in there, and they'll get the same tax penalty as if we wrote them a check. But if somebody doesn't want that money right away, they can leave it in there, they can wait longer, there's a certain point where you don't get a penalty off of it, or it can gain a little bit of interest while it's in there. It just gives them the chance to kind of decide. I think it's 70 and a half you have to turn to be able to take it out with no tax penalty, and maybe people will want to pull it out before then. But this just opens an opportunity for them. That's really the big change here. We put down that they would need to work 10 years, as we've done in years past, need to be 55 at the effective date of retirement, which is in line with state law for using the management fund. We did put a no sooner than date for the receiving an application of December 2nd, 7:30 a.m. And a big reason we did that is Lisa and I worked with the folks at the state who manage the 403Bs, the Retirement Investors Club, and they're going to provide a webinar to any interested staff to kind of learn how the 403B works and what they can do if they want the money right away, what they need to do if they want to let it gain interest, what their options are with that. We just felt like because there was that slight change in our recommendation, that would make it a little bit better for our staff to be able to listen to what that lady's got to say before turning in the paperwork and saying, yeah, I'm interested in this. Of course, somebody could not listen to that and still turn it in, and that'd be just fine. But that gives them the opportunity. And then we put no later than December 6th at 5 p.m., the end of the day on December 6th. Trying to think other items in here that would be useful to know for you. Other than that, it's pretty standard for what we've done here. We have in our master agreement the sick leave and flex leave reimbursement, so that's still kind of a part of the deal. That's separate of that $50,000 amount that goes into the tax sheltered annuity. We are asking the board to cap the number that we can accept at 4. And the reason we're asking that, and now as I talk through this, I realize maybe I should have put the 5-year forecast before this. Our goal is to maintain a pretty steady tax rate and not an increasing tax rate. And if we do too much off of the management fund too quickly, then we can run a risk of needing to increase the tax rate in future years. So we believe at 4, we can still keep things in line within the next 5 years here, so at least, so. Assuming the state doesn't do anything weird, because, you know, the state, they're always fun.
So you're saying they have to be 55 by this June 30th?
They have to be 55,
Okay.
yeah, by the
Okay.
effective date of retirement. Yeah,
Okay.
I remember I talked at the table here, one loophole we were looking at was trying to find out when that date had to be. And what we were told is, at the very latest, the only, like, even legally to say it was effective retirement date, it'd have to be before the first contract day of the next school year for any employee. And then Catherine told us, and already there, you're gonna run a risk once you go to your auditors. Because if your auditor looks at it and says, yeah, that's really kind of ridiculous, that's not a good date for that, reimburse the management fund from your general fund, is what the penalty for that would be. So the 50,000 would have to come, well, plus the sick and flex payout would have to come out of the general fund then. So we just thought it wise to be safe and not try to play with that date too much there. Just because the reason we want to do this is to protect our general fund, and if we're gonna have to reimburse it from the general fund anyway, it sort of defeats the whole purpose of an early retirement program. Does that make sense? Okay.
Any other questions?
Again, I just think for clarification, this isn't to just cut salaries and get people out the door. Multiple accounts, funds that districts can use. Management fund can only be used for a certain amount of things. So we don't want we don't want that out there, that we're just trying to get the highest salaries and get them out the door. That's not what this is at all.
Right. That, and like, I would only want somebody to take this if it worked for them.
Yes.
And I will tell you, it's very possible that we don't get 4. I couldn't predict, but looking at the people who would be eligible, it's very possible we don't get 4 early retirees. But I think if we put the cap at 4, that's the most that we can comfortably afford it within the management fund. We could maybe squeeze a 5th, but it would really put us in a pinch about 3 or 4 years down the road. And I just want to be, with the way that insurance costs increased this year, I don't know, you probably got this with your home insurance this year. The wind and hail items really increased insurance costs for us as a school and put a lot on us. So we, in our long range planning, we've kind of worked off of, I think we said 12 to 15% increases each year on that EMC insurance there, just because it seems like we get a deratio every other month in Iowa now. So we figure we probably better be ready to pay up when they've got 2 roof replacements in the process for us right now already for insurance. So glad we pay insurance, because those roofs are expensive.
So, we're on the table here, guys.
Make a motion to approve early retirement program as presented, capped with 4 potential early retirees.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the early retirement policy and application. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Review of the 5-year forecast.
Okay, I get to drive and Lisa's gonna talk. She's gonna be the navigator. So let me get this projected up here. Lisa has kind of worked through a little bit more digestible item that she's got to present from. But we want to show you the real deal too. We don't want to leave all the, I call it fun, and I think Lisa calls it fun, just to us with the spreadsheet. So let me get, gee golly, Cameron, You made it look like it was so easy. Let's see if I can do this. Open Zoom meeting. I am a millennial, I should be good at computers.
You can't be good at everything,
I
right?
guess not.
Not every day.
Yeah, not today apparently. Okay, I think I'm. Not gonna join with audio. Okay, and then I just share my.
I'm just letting you talk through it.
There we go. Hey, it should be coming up. It is not very big, so if you need a number from a column as we go through, I can read it to you, but.
I guess I would first start out
Want to
by,
get started?
huh,
Do you want me to go to the get started page?
yes, please.
Okay. So there's a whole bunch of tabs down at the bottom that we put information into, and Piper Sandler put some information in. Well, actually, ISPIS does the information for us, just to kind of know how this gets populated.
So, this program runs on what our assumptions are in the moment. So, this first page is our assumptions on SSA until fiscal year 2030. Some people recommend that we put 2. In the past, we have had 1s or 1.5s in there. I think, to be fair, we did a 2 and a 1.5 every other year, just because it's, how you can predict that is only based on what you've gotten in the past, and it hasn't been very large at any point here recently.
And we've got a little bit of a funding cliff coming our way as a state. Vouchers cost a lot more than it was expected to have cost, so that's kind of an item that we're afraid might pinch the state budget enough to impact us.
The enrollment tab.
Yep.
I'll start off this conversation by saying, so we ended the year, or our October 1st count for enrollment was, for certified enrollment, I'm trying to see if you can see it on there, was 66 students down, so that really jumped up on us. We were absolutely not expecting that, and the 18 extra students open and rolling out also jumped up on us as well. Those were things that we were not able to predict accurately, especially with the state allowing the virtual academies and all the online programs. So 66 students and 18 students, if you do the math, that's a significant amount that we need to plan for moving forward. So to be fiscally responsible, that's what we're doing.
And to draw attention to that, so that number of students is where the $700,000 comes from. That number that we talked about, the amount that we believe would be wise to cut, that comes from the reduction in students this year. But what you'll see as we go through this is you won't see that impact fiscally until the year after, because your funding for a school district is always 1 year in arrears. So when you see like, well, it looks like next year's great, that's because that's working off of last year's students. So just to kind of explain why it looks like it's offset by a year or two on here, and to tell you where that 700 comes from. Now that being said, we do have good news as we get later into this. 700 may be a little overzealous for what we actually need because of some of the work that we've done the last few years to make some cuts through attrition. So we believe that we can do it with slightly less, but I'll stop it right there.
Yeah, I would just like Mark said, I'd like to point out that this board has made several good decisions to get us to the point where we are right now, where a 66 plus 18 count student decrease would be a lot worse if we weren't in the position that we're in. So thanks to you guys for doing that. So that's just the enrollment tab. We've, in the past, usually went with a -10 each year, and with not knowing really what's coming in the future, we decided to go with a 20 decrease. We're looking at grade levels and tried to look at it that way, and we came to the conclusion that that covers all of our bases for right now.
And to kind of speak to that 22, just so you know that that's not just pulling a number out of the air, we actually did, so there's two ways, there's a few ways you can do it on this ISFIS document. One is using just a manual number, produce a certain number of kids per year. Another is what they call a cohort model, where you put in your enrollment in each grade, and then you just move them, you matriculate up a year and bring in what your kindergarten would be. And just working on enrollment as of whatever day we did that, which was sometime in the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks, we would be down about 18 kids for next year, is what we're slated to be if everybody just moves up one grade from where they are. There's a little bit of work that's done with TK to kind of change what grade people are in, whether they move on to first or kindergarten, but just kind of looking at our Head Start, our 4-year-old preschool numbers and all those things to kind of make a relatively good estimate for kindergarten. We'd be down about 18 kids as a district so far next year. So that 20 ends up being pretty reasonable for the next couple of years.
So those are our assumptions on enrollment. And the next tab is special education. The best way to work in this tab is you look at your deficit and you're increasing it by a certain amount each year. And so I think it's a 2% increase that we used there. So those are our sped deficits going across that we're assuming.
Mm-hmm. And we have some numbers in a potential change in deficit based on if we would add some behavior programming potentially. Dale, that's something that we've kind of looked at a little bit, and we're not quite there yet, but it is something we might need to do. So we did put in an additional increase there just in case.
The dropout tab, there really isn't anything that we do there, except make sure that we spend all of our dropout money each year, and that's the assumption that we will. Supplemental weighting, this one, this tab has really helped us out, or it's going to help us out even more. If you'll see the FY25, those are the sharing positions that we have there, and I think it's, what do we have there? 13 for FY25. And with the sharing that we're doing this year, we'll start to see those dollars, those beta dollars in FY26. So we're at the maximum of 23. The maximum is 21, but if you do have the career counselor, they let you add that extra 2. So that's where we're getting that 23. So we just went with assuming that we're going to be doing that sharing moving forward. So obviously if something changes there, we'll...
I kind of highlighted this box. I'll try to highlight that row so you kind of see that. I think you can see it up there, can't you?
Yeah.
So that's what doing that sharing produces for us as a district. So when we bring those sharing agreements with the different districts for positions, so like me doing special ed for Sam doing HR for us from Moravia, that's what's produced by all that, beyond what we pay them, what they pay us. So it really makes a nice little chunk to help us pay some of the things that we've got, and is a big part of why we can afford some of the additional course offerings that we do at the high school, beyond what some small schools are able to do.
And that's another reason why FY26 got a boost. So.
Yeah.
The next tab is the ISL, which that just, there's really not anything to look at there other than it's just letting you see our generated dollars and tax rate for the instructional support levy. That's what you guys just did here recently. Anything else?
No, that one's
Okay.
pretty smooth.
MSA is kind of confusing, but here in a few months, we'll bring the, for increasing enrollment, we'll ask you to approve the SBRC for increasing enrollment. And then also there's the, limited English proficient beyond 5 years, that's a very small amount, you just did that last month, I believe, for $172.50. But this is where that goes, that's the authority we get for that, and, we just estimate from FY '26 out, because you don't know what it's gonna be from year to year.
Kind of hit that, am I correct in remembering, because I don't want to missay this on, live here with everybody, but the reason we always take SBRC, increasing enrollment, like that's the one that you're supposed to take, even if you're not gonna have that?
Yeah.
Because obviously, we just talked about a pretty big decline in enrollment, right? But they recommend that you still approve the resolution each year, just in case something would happen, like randomly a migrant population would show up in your community on, like December 3rd, and you can go back to SBRC and ask for money to help educate those students at that point, if you have that resolution approved. So that's one of the items that is weird, because you feel kind of dumb approving an increasing enrollment item when you know you're in declining enrollment.
Well, and basically, really, we get the most of our money there, not necessarily in increasing enrollment, but the open enrollment out on the prior year count. So that's where we've had something every year. Those are people that come after the count date that you have to pay out to another district, or you're getting the authority for that when you ask for it, so. That's all on that tab.
Yeah, like an example of that, and this is something we'll still discuss. So we have a kid who lived in one of the small schools in the area, but open enrolled to another small school. Well, they just moved to Centerville, so now technically we're on the hook to pay the bill for their open enrollment to that small school, even though the people who received the money for them are the first small school. So that all gets wonky and messy in there, and the SBOs kind of deal with that, but that's kind of part of what that does for you.
The next tab is miscellaneous income. If you see there's a big, if you look at FY '24, well, I guess if you start at the top of FY '19 and then you go across, you'll see a huge difference there. These are all ESSER dollars starting in FY '21, or I'm sorry, FY '20, because we got a little bit there. So we had to take away this year, and we're going back down to a normal amount this year. So that will affect your spending authority, because you're not getting as many ESSER dollars, but we still have some of those expenditures that we kept that we're not gonna get claimed for.
And we're not gonna pull for COVID too by any means to get more
No,
ESSER dollars. We
no.
don't want them, that's bad.
No. So FY '22, 3.9 million. I mean, that's a significant amount for us to receive, and then go back down to an estimated, just under 2 million, so.
And we've slowly worked to take some of the items that were ongoing costs that when this district got the ESSER money initially, there were some ongoing costs added, like some staff, which, makes it where you have to make a cut commensurate with that when you don't have it anymore. We've actually really made an effort to recode some of that. So like, one was a special education teacher, which makes no sense to pay for out of ESSER when you could pay for that out of special education and use ESSER to pay for a non-ongoing cost.
Right.
So we've kind of really worked to fix our buckets the last couple of years. So while it is definitely less authority for us, it actually has a little bit less of an impact in that we have already kind of planned for a lot of those items.
Yep. The expenses tab. This is gonna, I don't think this is, it's gonna look a little bit wonky, just because, so if you look in the FY '25 column there, we have under salaries, that includes the salaries and the benefits, increases that we were expecting this year. I didn't have enough lines for all of the different salary and benefit changes, so
A lump sum.
we did it on another sheet and we added it as a lump sum. So if you go, and then we have 120,000 for curriculum down there, you'll notice that. And then on down, you go on down. Down at the bottom is where we're hoping for some savings through the early retirement and or whatever.
Other attrition.
Yeah. So if you took that out, at the very top, if you notice at the very top, it will show you on the very top line what your spending authority is. So just to give you an idea, if we don't do even just that amount of students at the bottom, if you just take that 1 to a 0. Why did you?
Because my computer's really slow.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So if you notice, I mean, we're way negative there in the FY.
So we do have in this projection, we did put $400,000 this year, and then a $400,000 savings in fiscal year '29. We believe it's probably likely that that would be the next time we could afford to do an early retirement of some amount. And again, we'll have to see what happens in the legislature between now and then, but that, we kind of put that in there as an item that we'll have to have in the back of our mind, planning for fiscal year '29 to be ready.
You go to the UAB tab.
Okay.
This is what we looked at last meeting in the spreadsheet form. This is the unspent balance report. And if you see that purple line over there, that is what is the state looks at for our unspent balance. So you can see how much it's decreasing in the future. I mean, it's gonna stay level, 26, and then it's gonna start going down. And once it starts trending down, that it's
Precipitous.
yeah. So we're trying to plan, just like we have in the past, and trying to be fiscally responsible. So, I don't know if you wanna go back and take off the early retirement and the.
And watch this, yep, I
And
can
see
do
what
that.
happens there,
Yep, I'll do that.
just so you get an idea.
So here you're on that purple line again.
Yeah.
That puts us at a negative percentage and hanging out with the SBRC to do a workout plan if we don't do those changes.
And once again, it's because of the, over 85 student
Yeah.
issue.
Which was not something that was in place before. Actually, wasn't even in the predictions from the state.
No,
So we can access demographic predictions that are, I'm not gonna say great, I'm gonna be honest with you and say they're iffy, but they're usually somewhat predictive of what we're gonna get, and, the ones for this year for us really did not predict well. The change in enrollment for people moving out and small numbers coming in.
and that's what's difficult about school finance, is, one bad year sets you on a tailspin, so you have to, make the best decisions that you can that doesn't affect students in a negative way.
But
So-
there was the good news though, because
Right.
we believe with 400,000 this year, that, we can be in a good spot instead of the 700,000. So I think that helps us to, the reason to come to Centerville in this area is because we offer more for every kid, and you've got opportunity to do things that you wouldn't have any other place. We've had some requests just in the last couple of weeks, Jared could even speak to, where some schools don't offer some programs, and maybe some kids had left our district, wanting to go to another school because they wanted 4 days a week, and then didn't realize they couldn't participate in our activities still. So like, we can continue to offer more, which I think is important in our selling point.
Right, and like you guys talked about earlier, this is the general fund only, unspent balance is the general fund. There are several different funds that we pay for infrastructure and early retirement, those all come from different funds, so, what we pay in salaries, and supplies is the general fund, and that's the only place that we can pay that out of, so. So that's all I have for the 5-year forecast. Does anybody have any questions?
It's a lot to digest.
Right,
Even if it's not a well-formed question, we can help get there, because I know this is a lot to look at.
makes a lot more sense than it did 3 years ago.
Lots more sense than it did 2 years ago, so yeah.
It does, this, I will tell you, does give us some information to predict tax rates and the management fund, and that's where we kind of talked about, after we had everything in there and really looked at balancing general fund needs versus keeping the management fund and the tax rates in good shape, why we recommended the cap of 4. Because as you kind of play with those numbers and put them in there, it changes that future tax rate for you, so you can kind of track, and our commitment to trying to maintain a fairly steady or declining rate as much as possible is pretty big.
And this is a working document, so we update and change it all the time, put different scenarios in. And I would say once budget season rolls around, maybe we can look at the tax rate tab a little bit more. Just want to be accurate with that. Yeah.
There are days that I excitedly run into Lisa's office and say, we got another grant, let's put it in the document and see what happens. And then we see the change, and it's kind of fun, you know, it's a neat thing.
I just have a question for maybe the public to know and for us too. So when we lose those 66 students that weren't here this year, we lose that 7,800 for each one?
Yeah.
And the virtual and the online, do we lose it for them too? Where does that, so if they do online, who does that money go to?
To that online school.
Okay, the online.
So, and I will tell you, and this probably will get me blacklisted and superintendents, I don't know, I shouldn't say that, that's bad, but, you know, knowing what some of those online programs that people are so excited to go to do, they pay a company, just like we had done for our online, about $3,000 or so for that kid. To that company manages all that with that kid, and they pocket $4,000 for their in-town kids. So we're taking the taxpayers from tax money from Appaloosa County, and those people are able to send it up to, there's a couple counties, I think one's in the north and one's out west, that have these online schools. And it supplements what they get to do for their kids. So that's a great question.
What about the virtual school?
So we do have a few kids still in our virtual school. Last spring,
So we don't lose that money?
Our virtual school, no, but Iowa Connections Academy and Iowa Virtual Academy, I can never remember what that,
Iowa
Hamilton
Virtual Learning,
Ridge.
yeah.
They take the full amount of money and they plug it into the same computer system and pocket the money. So, and I would anticipate we'll see an increase in virtual schools in the state. I think while we moved away from it based on our desire to provide high quality education, there are some people, and I'm not saying Cam and Clayton are those people because I think they're probably very nice folks, but there are definitely going to be people using the new charter money that's available out there, using all those things, who are going to build a diploma factory and not care if you pass a class. Because at the end, if you're a senior and you don't graduate, we're taking you out of our system and it falls back on your local district for their graduation need.
That's great.
So I would anticipate we'll see some of that continuing in the state.
Clear as mud.
Well, it just shows me that, you know, more has to be done at the legislative level to make that so it doesn't hurt all the schools.
Because it's gonna be really tough to run a society when half the people aren't educated because they didn't have to be. And I just feel really strongly about educating kids and how important that is for our future. And I understand, you know, people might think it's sour grapes or something, but I feel it's really important to have a standard for kids.
And I can tell you, I was at an ISD seminar, right 4 years ago. One of those districts talked about the financial aspects of the virtual school. The only thing they talked about money, they spent zero time on quality of education. All they talked about, this is how you supplement your budget for your school district, and all they cared about, the money being on diploma mills.
I just don't think I can get behind that. Like, I just can't
That was their
philosophically,
stated.
ethically get into doing that. That, I did not mean to add any depression to the meeting with that, I'm sorry. Just, I think it's a big deal, and it's gonna be something we're gonna see continue to hit as more and more online schools exist out there, and online schools were exempted from the reintroduction of open enrollment deadlines. So when they reintroduced open enrollment deadlines, they purposely exempted online schools from that. And I really think that's a loophole that I would really encourage our legislators to consider closing, because just like we saw with students open enrolling to another brick and mortar after they were hit with the truancy concern, after they had a DHS item, or after they'd had a discipline issue, we're seeing that with online schools yet again. As soon as you have truancy, I'm going online. So I really think our legislators need to close that loophole. I hope they do. Sorry, didn't mean to add depression.
Well, I've said it before, just because you've been to school doesn't mean you know how to run it.
Fair enough.
Those are unintended consequences. There we go.
Yeah.
Any other questions about 5-year forecast? Well, that brings us to personnel business procedures.
So there is a resignation in there. We do have a replacement teacher in place. So I know that resignation had come to this board before, and we asked for permission to bring it back if we had a replacement. We actually have worked with that teacher and the replacement teacher. We're looking for a transition period to be able to have that person stay with us at least through Thanksgiving break, possibly through the first week of December. If that would be okay with the board to do that, it's a little bit of extra special ed for that time, but it's gonna be really worth it to make sure that the kids are handed off in a good way. And we're really appreciative to the young lady who's taking the position. She's got a lot of passion for it, and we will have a recommendation for hire for you. We could not put the recommendation for hire on this meeting because her license had not yet cleared by the time we had given the board packet to you. Her license did clear, apparently over the weekend or maybe Friday evening or something. So we are good to go, and I'll have it on the December 9th meeting for you so that we're good on that. But I'll, for this time, need to use the I don't want to say power, the leeway that the board had given me in hiring to be able to get the right person in to get her started in training for that time. She's a transfer. She's been serving as a study hall supervisor for us at the high school for the last couple of years, and had a teaching degree, but she'll be working on her initial license in this role. So she'll go through the mentoring program with Joe Mobley, and that we have a really strong mentoring and induction program that I think will be very valuable for her as she learns the ropes in special education, which is a little tougher gig.
So then will she be replaced then at high school or?
We've got that, oh golly, I've lost that lady's name.
Marissa.
Yeah, Marissa, who we actually, I kind of did it backwards. So we'd actually kind of approved at the last meeting for that spot because we had this young lady long-term subbing and had an opportunity for another long-term subbing if this didn't work out for her. But now we can put her in a real gig and get her rolling with us for real and get her licensed through the initial phase. And she's going to do a nice job for us. She's really, really positive, really kind of a happy person that wants to help kids. And she gets to work with littles, which is going to be just so fun. She's worked with bigs for so long over there at the high school now.
Sounds like a win for everybody.
I'm feeling good. Like, I feel like we did all right for ourselves here, and especially for our kids, and I think it's going to go well.
Okay.
Motion to approve personnel business procedures as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? No discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Financial reports. Questions or comments there?
I don't have anything to add on that. Lisa, do you have anything you want to add to it?
No, just.
Just paying bills,
Yeah.
doing the thing.
Same old thing.
Motion to approve.
I second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor of approving financial report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Superintendent's report.
I, much like I am, just a fairly short and sweet report today. That was funny. Sorry. First off, the biggest thing I wanted to do with my report today was to thank, we have 3 veterans on our school board. All 3 served in the Army, which is interesting. That's cool. So Mike, Kevin, and Tom all served, and want to thank you guys for your service to our country. Today we had the opportunity to have our Veterans Day Assembly at Lakeview, and it was another great turnout, really positive. The kids had some nice performances. We had the combined 7th through 12th grade band, which was kind of fun, performed the Star Spangled Banner and American Salute, which had each of the armed forces songs in that. We had a performance from the high school choir, the middle school choir, and the Lakeview combined 3rd through 5th grade. Just a wonderful deal. Sergeant Major Todd Ratliff was our presenter today, and he did a really good job for us. So it was a really good day, a very positive event for our community and for our kids, teaching about the importance of our veterans and some civic responsibility to our kids, which I think is huge. In policy news, I did write about this in my email this week, but just to share, the biggest item that I'm working on right now is combining various old handbooks that we had. We used to have a faculty handbook and we have a support staff handbook that's been updated. Trying to combine that into one employee handbook. IASB actually has an exemplar. So since we moved our building handbooks to their exemplar, we've done our policy off their exemplar. I'm looking at taking all of our items and putting it into their exemplar. And just making sure we don't create any conflicts is what's taking a little bit of time with that. If I'm lucky, hopefully I'll have a chance to kind of I want to meet with some employment groups a little bit and talk about the handbook before I take it to the board. So I'd like to say I'd make it by December 9th, but it's probably going to be a January meeting, just to make sure I've given those folks a chance to take a look at it before the board gets a hold of it. And it'll look real beautiful. It's all my good stuff.
Any questions? Board member takeaways. Mr. Wiskus, we get to start with you this time.
Perfect. I think in retrospect, if we ever built another building, which I don't think we ever will, a 1.25% contingency budget is not big enough on a building that'll, the combination of the two things cause some surprises, so.
Yeah.
I'm just glad change orders are done.
Mr. Moore, you're next.
I think he backed out of the meeting.
We lost him.
We lost him.
Perfect.
The middle schoolers took him over.
It'll do that up Mr. Carter.
Yeah, pretty short and sweet tonight as far as the meeting goes. Once again, I want to thank our student rep for being here tonight. Thank you for the work that this board does. Those playing along at home, they may have sensed a little bit of, division in the room on some different things, and I certainly don't feel that way. I just look forward to getting to work with everybody at IASB #1 next week. Next week.
Coming fast.
And working together to address some concerns that we all may have and keep us on the right path.
Mr. Johnson.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Mark for getting that special ed thing taken care of. I think that's a real, feather in your cap, because that can't be easy. We have to have a special ed teacher, and I know it wasn't easy for the person that wanted to resign too. So I think that's really good. I think, the veterans thing today that we had up at Lakeview, community was there. The community was there, and that's a positive thing for our school. That they came and witnessed that and know that it was really a good production. And then they saw the different groups sing and play their instruments and that, so I think that's always good. The other thing I want to say is that I thank the people that, all our officers that have been on the board and the ones that had the guts to run for the board. We appreciate that very much, because I was not one of them.
Ms. Efron.
I just like to thank Mark and Lisa for their hard work on their presentation of the 5-year. I mean, to look at that, to me, it's so overwhelming and there's so much to learn, but that has to be just a lot to take on. So thank you.
Mr. Berger.
It's not easy to go last, is it?
Point to where we want.
Well, I asked the convention next week, I don't have the abbreviation right, but I'm looking forward to that. It's a tongue twister. It is. And as I look back and I see how the last 3 years have been, I've really learned a lot, and it's thanks to a lot of people that I've served with here. And it really is important, I mean, to the people at home too, that I know that we can now help explain some of this stuff to them. And I'm really glad that I did run for the board and get on it, so I could learn and be an advocate for my community. So, thank you.
My takeaways have to do with not necessarily everything that happened here, but I had the opportunity to speak to several of the people who were part of they call it the over 60 homecoming group. These are people that graduated 60 years or more. And Centerville Community School Foundation, whom I am a representative of the board on, pretty much runs that whole thing with the school. And these folks were, I mean, extremely complimentary to the students and the staff and the way they conducted that homecoming activity. They just thought that the students were very polite, respectful, attentive. I mean, it was just nothing but positive things about the students and staff. And I was surprised by that, but, you know, I enjoyed that. And again, like Mr. Johnson said, if you haven't been to the veterans activities, it was pretty overwhelming. I had a little girl come up to me before the activities, and she shoved this piece of paper in front of me that thanked me for my service. And she shoved it in my hand and disappeared. I looked at that for the whole hour or so, and decided I needed to find that young lady, and they did help me find her, and I thanked her for that. It was a very special thing for me. My last takeaway is that I'm sitting here, but the fact is, I think that any one of the people at the desk here could have taken this position. And I especially appreciate Mr. Wiskus. He was the deciding vote. And he and I have talked about this years ago. And I supported him then, and I appreciate his support tonight. And I hope that I can do as good a job as he's done. If not, you can impeach me. Anything else? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second. We'll give Tom a motion, I'll take the rest.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.